45, I just want to clarify a couple things. It describes the angles as the angle of depression, but it gets confusing because those angles overlap. Remember, the angle of depression and angle of elevation are always from horizontal. Like the first shift is 27 degrees, you're looking down from the top lighthouse, 27 degrees below horizontal. What means that means the person on the ship has an angle of elevation 27 degrees. And I guess my point is I would just use the angles of the elevation. And so the farther ship, the angle of depression is 7 degrees, that means the angle of elevation is 7 degrees. And one more thing, it says the other ship's directly behind the first. That just means that from the perspective of the lighthouse, it's not like it looks at one ship over here and the other ship's over there. They're both in the same line from the lighthouse. So one's behind the other. So your picture, will make sense. And then you just do this just like the last example I did. Okay? You use the two right triangles to find the distances and subtract. I'm just going to set up a tangent equation for both right triangles. So the smaller right triangle, I get this tangent equation. The bigger right triangle, you get tangent of 48. And the adjacent side is still y. What's the opposite side? Yes. And before we go on, by the way, the question asks for the height of the whole of Mount Rushmore. So that's all the way up to the top, right? That's what we're trying to find ultimately. Now, you basically have a system of equations here. What I'm going to do first is multiply by y on both sides. So here you get y tangent of 44.76 equals x. And then same thing here, multiply by y. Which leaves x plus 60 there. Now you have two options to go on to proceed from here. One thing you could do right now is substitute. The other question says x equals this, so you can replace that in place of x over here. We can do that. Or if you prefer, I can make this one x equals, and then just set the two things equal to each other. What do you want to do? Okay, we'll do that. And I did it each way the last two periods. It's pretty much the same. So if I do it this way, I get x equals that minus 60. Let me write that out first. And then set those two things equal to each other. So that equals that. Now, listen. This is kind of messy. You have y kind of tied together in two terms. What you want to do is collect your like terms, collect your y terms together. So I'm going to keep this one on the left side. I'm going to bring the other one over. So I'll get that minus the other one. Like I said, all I did is move this y term to the left side of the equal sign, so it changed sign. Leave the negative 60 where it was. Okay? Now, there's a couple ways you can think about this. It'd be much easier if those are just plain numbers. If it was like 5y minus 3y, you just subtract, wouldn't you? Now, I'm not going to do that exactly. I'm going to factor out the y. So it's kind of like combined like terms. I was going to write it like this. That minus that. Let me write it down, then we'll pause and make sure it makes sense. And by the way, there's parentheses around the whole thing. So you can think of it as I combine like terms, so I combine the coefficients, except I couldn't really combine them, so I just worked. Or you can think of it as I factor out a common factor of y. And look at this, to go backwards, I'd multiply y times this and get this term, multiply y times this and get this term back, okay? But now, y is by itself, it's its own factor, so now I finish by dividing. And I divide by that whole mess that is multiplied onto y. So you end up with negative 60 divided by, it's not behaving. So negative 60 divided by all of this. And you got to be careful when you type that in. You'll need parentheses around that denominator. So an extra set of parentheses. Now let's get this typed in. And I want to tell you another alternative. Another way you could have done the problem. So like I said, negative 60 divided by And you need to open parentheses. You need parentheses around the denominator. So then tangent of 44.76, close parentheses, minus tangent 48. And how many parentheses do I need to close here? No, one for the tangent, one for the denominator. Some newer calculators would have it on the screen very much like we wrote it, so you don't have to be as careful with parentheses. So there you go. The answer is 504.4. Yes. Okay, someone say no. Yeah, that was not what we're looking for. That was this. So we're not done. The good news is we're not far off. Look, we need to find x, don't we? So right here it says x equals this. All you need to do is take y, which is the last thing that's sitting in your calculator, times tangent of 44.76. So type it in. Like I said, y is sitting there, so just do times tangent of 44.76. And so there we go. X equals, wait, what was it? 500.2? Is that right? So there, now we're done, right? Oh, wait, what? Yeah, 500.2. And then I almost told you, but one person was not to be fooled. The answer is 560.2 because the answer, it was not asking for x, it was asking for the total height, which includes the 60 feet. So yes, that one's a bear. And be careful, this is typical. What I mean is, I'll show you the calculator stuff in a second, Addison, okay? But I'm saying you get through all this really, really hard algebra, and then you get it wrong, not because you messed up in the algebra, but because you didn't finish the problem. The last two steps were easy, especially the very last step, right? So it'd be really, really sad if you put 500.2 on your answer and got it wrong, because that was the easiest step of all. All right.